Kamala Harris, also known as Aristotle and Epictetus, because she is so brilliant. What is her whole strategy? It's joy, it's positive vibe, it's excitement, it's fun. Why? I'm trying to invoke, activate emotional system. Hey, please, electorate, don't think, don't be rational. Don't look at policies. When you look at me, you're happy. When you look at Ogre Orange Himmler, he's mean. He's cantankerous. Therefore, vote for me. It's fun. By the way, you might think that this only applies to, quote, low information voters. I hate that expression. No, no, no. It applies to my colleagues.
Yeah.
They are as prone to this stupidity. So I look at all of my colleagues who suddenly discovered that in the history of human thought, much more than Isaac Newton, much more than Charles Darwin, the true brilliant mind of history is Kamala Harris. Until 14 seconds ago, she was an abject moron who couldn't string together a single sentence. But now they're going to vote for her. She's fun. She's the pathway forward. She's for change, but she also happens to be the current administration. So she's changing a pathway forward. But by the way, please don't think about the fact that she is the current administration. So we should run away from the current administration because she's going to institute change. So the capacity for people to be parasitized by bad ideas, to be parasitized by their emotional system is so profound. But to me, it's so disheartening because in some cases it may not matter. But when it comes to who's going to have their finger on the proverbial red button, nuclear button, maybe you want to do more than just think about joy and fun.
Two thoughts on that. Number one, and I'm sure you'll know this better than anyone, I was watching a documentary on Netflix, and Hitler captured the entire nation with a movement called Strength Through Joy.
Bingo! You got it.
Not that I'm saying, obviously, she is not a Nazi, but there is no question somebody on her campaign was like, now let's see, how did they capture all of these people and kind of enrapture them? It was a huge thing. Google it. That's my go-to. Like, there's no question. And it's like joy, 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 joy. I've seen compilations of liberal media channels and people in the Democratic Party saying joy, joy, joy.
The most remarkable demonstration of support, enthusiasm, joy.
This idea of joy.
Joy.
Being joyful is part of the American identity.
There is joy in the future. There is joy in having your boss be a black woman. There is joy in what is coming.
What we're hearing from this vice president, future president, is a message of freedom and joy.
I just love that we have this new joy.
You could see it just so filled with the joy of the work.
The fact that we saw that exuberance last night, that joy.
One is hope and joy, and the other is fear and anger.
Oh, you could really see joy and exuberance versus grievance and retribution.
People are tired of fear and anger, and so they're going to give to them the hope and the joy.
At the same time, I would tell you that somebody might say, well, it's a lesser of evil, but I appreciate that part. If they're telling me this is what I don't like about Trump, and I do see this about Kamala, and for me, I'm going to go this way because I don't like this about him. If they can at least see it, but the part that does feel crazy, like this nobody gonna wake up part, is she was the least popular vice president of all time.
And she didn't get a single vote in the Democratic primary, right? So this is not Republicans or independents voting against her. When she ran in the primary for 2020, she was the first one to go out because she didn't get above 0%. She didn't get to 1%. So imagine that she's now coronated. Now again, my position is not, I'm not a surrogate of Trump. I don't have
I'm not
posters
either.
of Trump
I'm not
in my
either.
bedroom.
I know.
But I am for rationality. I'm
Yeah.
for thought. Now, if you come to me and say, here are the 7 substantive reasons why I think Kamala Harris is the right choice, I'm going to listen to you. And then
Right.
we can have this. But it never is that. It really is that. I mean,
I've asked the question. I've
it-
asked the question myself of everybody who says that to me, and I either hear she's pro-abortion, and I'm like, okay, I understand why many people are deeply concerned about that. That said, or I hear, isn't it exciting? She's a woman of color. And
exactly.
it's like but now you've reduced her to the. Tell me about, like, I could tell you what I love about Tulsi Gabbard. I could tell you things that I liked about Nikki Haley. I could tell you things I liked about Klobuchar. I never once was impressed by Kamala personally, and it has nothing to do with her being a Democrat. I just didn't find her personally impressive with regard to the way she spoke, her job record. She wasn't my candidate, not at any point. Even when I was very heavily left. And yet it's like she's hung the moon.
She is. Look, let me just add a few points. I'm going to draw a cool analogy. There's the fancy term is tasseography. Tasseography is something that you see in the Middle East. It could either be where you read the tea leaves, or at least in our culture from Lebanon, that when you drink Arabic coffee or Turkish coffee, there is a residue at the bottom. So if you flip that cup, it creates certain patterns. And in Arabic culture, there is, believe me, it's going to come back to Kamala, so bear with me. Because oftentimes when I start on these stories, people are like, what is he talking about? Don't worry, I bring it all home.
I'm always with you.
Keeping it real with Jillian Michaels.